Hi there guys, and welcome to another edition of the Cover Zero show with me, your host Simon Conboy. This episode will be covering the free agency activity for the New York Football Giants, who managed to make the playoffs last season in spite of an at times putrid offense. Had chances early in that Green Bay game, fell behind due to some drop balls, all the scandal about the party boat, which I'm not even going to talk about because it's a non-story. Other than that brief mention, which I apologise for. But defensively, they went out, they spent big money last year to improve defensively. It worked. Janoris Jenkins had a great season as their number one corner. Damon Harrison came in and proved that he's just a dominant nose tackle. Him and Hankins offered very little pass rush in the middle, but when you've got two solid space-eating Goliaths at defensive tackle running up the gut, it's hard. Olivier Vernon played well. Jason Pierre-Paul played well. So defensively, they were a very solid unit. And Landon Collins, what a season. After struggling as a rookie, he was incredibly effective last year. Had played a big part in that team making the playoffs. Eli Manning struggled massively. I'd be worried in some ways if I'm the Giants, because if you see that again, that tells me he's done. Really struggled to push the ball down the field. Beckham's still one of the elite receivers in the game, even if he is, his histrionics do get a bit irritating. Sterling Shepard had a solid rookie season. No run game. I mean, the reason I'm willing to give Eli sort of another chance and not say he's done at this point is because that team struggled in pass protection, had no run game. It really did come down to Eli to try and win games, really struggled with it. We've seen that in the past. Eli is not on that, that level with your Bradys, your Rodgers, where he can single-handedly carry your offense. He does need support around him. A successful season. I feel like they got a bit lucky in some games, but defenses sometimes they can make it look that way. Solid defensive teams really can pull some games out of the bag for you. I feel they would have ranked higher defensively. They probably would have ended up like number one had the offense been able to stay on the field and provide an NFL caliber offense last season, which they absolutely could not. Outside of Odell Beckham, I mean, if he wasn't on that roster, I don't know what they would have done last year offensively. They would have been right down near the bottom with some of the teams you expect to see down there. So going into free agency, I had their biggest needs listed as offensive tackle. That's a given. Anyone who watched them last year absolutely need to get better protection for Eli from the tackle spots. Eric Flowers hasn't quite worked out. It's a bit of a mess there, to be honest. Linebacker, I don't know how long this has been a need in New York. It's been years. I can't remember the last time there was a high-end linebacker playing for the New York Giants. Clearly it's something Jerry Reese does not prioritise. I think we can, the proof is in the pudding, the evidence is there. It's not something he puts an emphasis on, but for this, if this defence wants to take another step, they're solid at every level other than linebacker. If they could bring in somebody to fill that spot, that defence looks even better. And also running back. Paul Perkins showed some flashes at the end of the year, but for one, I don't think you can rely on him being a number one and producing next year. You haven't got the track record to believe that's the case. And even if he can, you still want to have a second running back. They've got nobody else. Vereen, he's just a pass catching sort of scat back at this point. Really would benefit them, I think, to get a proper number one running back to take some of the pressure off of Eli Manning going into next season. So in terms of the signings that they've made so far, not been too active. Made a big splash early on, getting Brandon Marshall to move across New York to join the team on a very, very reasonable deal. 2 years, $12 million. Obviously Marshall's getting older, had a disappointing season last year. How much of that's on him, I'm not entirely sure. Of course, that Jets team was just a disaster across the board. This is an interesting one. He's clearly decided that he's happy to be a number 2 across from Odell Beckham, which is perfectly reasonable, especially at this stage in his career. With Sterling Shepard, actually, this is a really good-looking group. If Shepard continues to develop, Brandon Marshall doesn't fall off a cliff. He is at that age where you just never know. However, his game isn't particularly speed-based, so I don't think there'll be a major drop-off there, and it's not like he's going to be asked to carry the load. Odell Beckham will be the focal point of that passing game. It gives them a big-bodied receiver. They don't have that at the moment. Well, they do now, but they didn't have that. So someone in the red zone, you can throw him those fade routes, or those corner routes, just put the ball up there. Tends to play very well, actually, in his first couple of years. Of course, he has wore out his welcome with several franchises in the past, but it seems like in New York in particular, it seems like he sort of was a better locker room presence than he has been in the past. He tends to do well for the first season with new teams, so I don't suspect that will be a problem for him. In all honesty, I really think he's a player that's over that point in his career, and credit to him. I really feel he's turned that aspect of his life around in the locker room. So yeah, good signing. It's not a huge amount of money. Probably could have got more to go elsewhere. It's clear he wanted to go play for the Giants, so it's a big benefit to them. Really think it improves their receiving group. Could go wrong if he falls off a cliff because of age, but as I say, I don't think that will happen. Great signing. And the other one, they have signed DJ Fluker, the gigantic offensive lineman, formerly of the Chargers, former first-round pick. Talented players, played well at points in his career. Unfortunately, he's dealt with a lot of injuries, been unable to stay healthy. Initially, when I saw this signing, 1 year, $3 million, great. That's fine, no risk, high upside. We've seen him play well in the past. It's not a massively speculative sort of prove-it deal. So perfectly reasonable. I initially expected he was going to be playing guard, but then they've also signed John Jerry, another gigantic man, to play guard. He's on a 3-year deal, $10 million, 4.2 guaranteed. It could just be that Jerry's been signed for depth. I'm wondering if they're considering moving Fluker to the right tackle spot, which I don't think is a particularly good idea. I think those injuries have potentially taken away what little sort of quickness he may have had to defend plays on the edge. So perhaps it might be speculative. I could be totally wrong here. If it's to play tackle, again, it's not a large amount of money. The money also would suggest to me that he's been signed to play guard. But they've got Justin Pugh. They could kick him out. Jerry and him could be the guards. They could kick Pugh out to right tackle, or possibly even to left tackle, and then move Flowers over, because Flowers, frankly, thus far in his career, has been a liability at left tackle. Maybe moving him over to the right-hand side would help. Both signings are fine. Jerry played quite well in New York, even though he was an underachiever when he was in Miami, but he's played well last season. Well, maybe not well, but was solid enough. It's a reasonable contract. Fluker's a high upside signing. So I understand the moves. I also understand, as I say, they need a tackle, definitely. But I definitely understand keeping out of that market. It was horrific. Some of the contracts that are there, I will compliment teams that did not go near that market. Other than, Ricky Wagner with the Lions, that was a great signing. The rest of them, not so great. So, well done holding off there, Jerry Reese. Not sure how they attack it. They may have to do so through the draft. They're picking later in the first round anyway, so even though there's no highly touted prospects, there's guys that I'm sure could step in and probably compete for a starting job at worst. It absolutely has to be addressed. Running back, there's still some guys there. Again, this draft is apparently incredibly deep with running backs. I've not looked at too many of them, only really sort of the top guys at this point. Expect to see the Giants attack that position as well. Defensively, they're pretty solid. As I say, they need linebackers. I don't know what they do there. We're really interested to see if they were to enter that Whitehall sweepstakes, but I'm not sure that would be something that would interest them. As I say, Jerry Reese just doesn't seem to have too much care for that particular position on the field. But what do you guys think? Do you think Eli Manning's done? It's one of the debates I've had with people over the course of the season. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't blame you guys necessarily if you think he is, because at times last year he really was that bad. What do you think the Giants need? What do you think they've done to address? Are you happy with what they've done to address these needs thus far? Where do you think they'll go in the draft? Feel free to comment below. Let us know what you think. I'll do my best to get back to all of you. And as always, if you've got any suggestions for future shows, I'll do my best to get those done. Thank you very much for your time. Pleasure as always. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Feel free to check out the Patreon. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please check out some more of them if you did. And as always, go Bucks.